Imagine being told to leave your own yard by a neighbor who thinks she owns the street. Now imagine her face when she finds out who you really are. That's the kind of Saturday morning I had, and trust me, it's one for the books. I'm Jack Thompson, 62, former President of the United States, now retired to Sunnyvale Estates, a cookie-cutter suburb in the Midwest, where the lawns are greener than a golf course and the drama's thicker than my old briefing binders. After years of dodging press corps and foreign diplomats, I figured a quiet life painting my fence would be a breeze. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It's a crisp spring day in 2025, the kind where the sun's just warm enough to make you forget winter's bite. I'm in my front yard, overalls splattered with a shade of blue I'm calling presidential sapphire. The fence is looking sharp, if I do say so myself. I'm humming an old Springsteen tune, paintbrush in hand, when a shadow looms over me like a drone strike. Enter Karen Wilson, HO President, neighborhood watchdog, and self-appointed dictator of Sunnyvale Estates. Karen's clutching a copy of the HOA bylaws like it's the Constitution itself, her eyes narrowed to slits. That color isn't approved. She barks, her voice sharp enough to cut through my peaceful morning. Rule 7.2 requires pre-approval for exterior modifications. Stop now and leave your yard. I blink, paintbrush frozen mid-stroke, wondering if I've stumbled into a reality show. Leave my own yard. I've stared down rogue generals and hostile senators, but this woman's got a glare that could make a Secret Service agent flinch. Now, let's pause for a second. Have you ever had a run-in with a nosy neighbor or an overzealous OA? Maybe they fined you for a mailbox that was half an inch too tall or a lawn that dared to grow past regulation length. Drop your stories in the comments. I'm dying to hear them. Also, where are you reading this from? Phone, TV, laptop. What's the time there, and more importantly, are you Team Jack or Team Karen? Choose wisely. Back to the showdown. Karen standing there, 5'4" of pure suburban fury, her sensible loafers planted firmly on my grass. She's the kind of person who measures her neighbor's hedges with a ruler and sends cease and desist letters over unapproved bird feeders. Sunnyvale's rumor mill says she once fined a guy for parking his Prius too diagonally. I try to keep things civil. Karen, I say, wiping paint off my hands, this is my property. I checked the deed. Yep, still mine. Her response, a scoff so loud it probably woke the neighbors. Your property is subject to HOA regulations, Mr. Thompson. She snaps, jabbing a manicured finger at the bylaws. Blue fences are not in the approved palette. You're violating community standards. Community standards. Lady, I've upheld national security standards. A fence color isn't going to send Sunnyvale into anarchy. I glance at my fence, which frankly looks fantastic. It's the kind of blue that says, I'm retired, but I've still got style. Karen, however, sees it as a personal affront to her reign. She's pacing now, muttering about fines and board meetings, her phone already out to document my infraction. I'm tempted to tell her I've faced worse threats from foreign spies, but I hold back. No need to escalate. Yet, here's the thing about HOAs, they're like mini governments, but with less accountability and more clipboards. According to Bankrate, they can regulate everything from paint colors to patio furniture, as long as the rules are reasonable and follow state laws. Reasonable, my foot. Karen's treating my fence like it's a national security breach. I half expect her to call in a SWAT team. Karen. I try again, keeping my tone calm. Let's talk this out. Maybe the board can review the color. It's just paint. Big mistake. She wheels on me, eyes blazing. Talk it out. The time for talking was before you defaced your property. Defaced. I've negotiated peace treaties with less hostility. I'm starting to think Karen's got a personal vendetta against anything that doesn't scream Bedge conformity. By now, a few neighbors are poking their heads out, drawn by the commotion. Tom, a retired mechanic who lives across the street, ambles over with a beer in hand, his grin wider than the Grand Canyon. Karen's at it again, he whispers, leaning against my mailbox. She fined me last month for parking my RV in my own driveway. Said it was an eyesore. I nod, suppressing a laugh. Tom's RV is nicer than most people's houses, but to Karen, it's a crime against suburbia. The tension's building, and I'm caught between amusement and irritation. I've dealt with dictators who were less dogmatic than this woman. Part of me wants to pull rank, but I'm trying to keep my past under wraps. Sunnyvale doesn't need to know their new neighbor used to have the nuclear codes. Still, Karen's pushing it, and I can feel the old commander-in-chief instincts kicking in. You don't mess with Jack Thompson's yard. She's not backing down, though. If anything, she's doubling down, quoting Rule 7.2 like it's scripture. Exterior modifications must be submitted for approval 30 days in advance, she recites, her voice dripping with smug authority. Failure to comply results in fines, liens, or legal action. Legal action. Over offense, I've seen calmer debates in the Situation Room, and those involved missile strikes. I'm holding my paintbrush like a scepter, trying not to laugh at the absurdity. This is my life now, no more Oval Office, just a suburban standoff with a woman who thinks she's the queen of Sunnyvale. Little does she know, I've got a trump card parked just down the street. A black SUV with 2 Secret Service agents who'd probably find this hilarious. For now, I'm keeping them out of it. Let Karen think she's winning. The best revenge, after all, is the kind they don't see coming. So here I am, paint cans at my feet, neighbors watching like it's a reality TV showdown. Karen's still ranting, oblivious to the storm she's about to unleash. I'm calm, but inside I'm grinning. This is about to get good. When a simple Saturday morning turns into a neighborhood feud, you know you're in for a ride. I'm Jack Thompson, former President of the United States, now locked in a suburban showdown over a blue fence in Sunnyvale Estates. Karen Wilson, OA President and self-proclaimed guardian of beige conformity, is pacing my yard like a general plotting a coup. My paintbrush is still dripping, presidential sapphire, and I'm wondering how my quiet retirement turned into a scene from a sitcom gone wrong. Karen's in full dictator mode, waving her phone like it's a scepter and quoting HOA bylaws with the fervor of a televangelist. You're disrupting our community standards, she snaps, her voice hitting a pitch that could shatter glass. Community standards. Lady, I've kept the free world from imploding. A fence color isn't going to send Sunnyvale into chaos. But Karen's on a mission, and I'm the unlucky target. I'm standing there, paint splattered overalls and all, trying not to laugh at the absurdity. I've negotiated with world leaders who were less intense than this woman. Her loafers are practically carving trenches in my grass as she paces, dictating rules like she's judge, jury, and executioner. Rule 7.2 is non-negotiable, she declares, thrusting her bylaws at me. I glance at the dog-eared booklet, wondering if it comes with a decoder ring for suburban nonsense. Across the street, Tom, my neighbor and unofficial hype man, is leaning against his mailbox, sipping a beer and grinning like he's got front row seats to the Super Bowl. Karen's at it again, he mutters loud enough for me to hear. She fined me for my RV last month. Said it clashed with the aesthetic. I nod, stifling a chuckle. Tom's RV is a gleaming beast, but to Karen, it's a blight on her perfect little kingdom. I'm starting to think she's got a personal vendetta against anything with personality. The neighbors are gathering now, drawn by Karen's one-woman tirade. Curtains twitch, porch doors creak, and a few brave souls step onto their lawns, pretending to check their mailboxes while eavesdropping. It's like a live episode of HOA Nightmares, and I'm the reluctant star. Karen, oblivious to the audience, is now filming my fence with her phone, narrating like she's auditioning for a true crime podcast. Unapproved exterior modification, committed in broad daylight, she intones. Broad daylight, I'm painting, not robbing a bank. Humor's my only defense at this point. Karen's so intense she nearly trips over a garden hose, flailing like a cartoon villain before recovering to keep yelling. I catch Tom's eye and mutter, I've seen calmer debates in the Situation Room. He snorts, nearly choking on his beer. Jack, you're a saint for not decking her with that paintbrush, he whispers. Tempting, but I'm keeping my cool. Presidents don't lose it over Oa tyrants, at least not on camera. Here's the kicker: Oa disputes like this are absurdly common. According to Wild Apricot, they often escalate over minor violations, with fines as the go-to weapon. Karen's wielding those fines like a flamethrower, threatening to bankrupt me over a 12 can of paint. I try reasoning again, holding up my hands like I'm calming a rogue diplomat. Karen, let's take this to the board. I'm sure we can work it out. Her response, a scoff that could curdle milk. The board will back me up, Mr. Thompson. You're in violation, and you'll pay. Pay. I've balanced budgets bigger than Sunnyvale's entire property value. I'm half tempted to tell her I could buy this neighborhood and paint every house blue, but that's not the game plan. The game plan is patience. Revenge, as I learned in politics, is a dish best served with a side of surprise. And trust me, Karen's in for a surprise bigger than her ego. She's dialing now, her phone pressed to her ear as she summons the HOA cavalry. This is Karen Wilson, she announces, loud enough for the next county to hear. We have a non-compliant resident at 142 Maple Drive. Immediate action required. Immediate action. I'm painting a fence, not launching a missile. The neighbors are eating this up, whispering and chuckling. A kid on a bike slows down, filming the whole thing on his phone. Great, I'm about to go viral as former President Vis. HOA Karen. I glance down the street where a black SUV is parked discreetly under a tree. My Secret Service detail, Carter and Hayes, are inside, probably listening to this circus through their earpieces. I told them to stay low-key when I moved here. No need to spook the neighbors with men in suits and sunglasses. But Karen's pushing it, and I'm starting to think a little federal intervention might be in order. Not yet, though. Let her dig her own grave. Karen's still ranting, now lecturing me on curb appeal and property values. I'm nodding along, paintbrush dangling, wondering if she'd implode if I told her I've got a Medal of Freedom in my study. You're lowering the tone of Sunnyvale, she accuses, her face redder than a campaign rally. Lowering the tone. I'm the guy who kept this country's tone civil through 2 terms. If anything, my fence is elevating this place. Tom sidles closer, offering me a sip of his beer. She's lost it, Jack, he says, shaking his head. Last week, she measured my grass with a ruler, said it was 1/8 of an inch too long. I take the beer, chuckling. Tom, I've dealt with rogue nations less obsessive. He grins, raising his can in a toast. To surviving Karen, he says. I clink my paint can against it. To surviving. The tension's rising and Karen's not slowing down. She's pacing faster, her voice hitting operatic levels as she lists my crimes. The neighbors are openly watching now, some with lawn chairs, like this is a summer blockbuster. I'm calm on the outside, but inside I'm plotting. Karen thinks she's got the upper hand, but she's about to learn a lesson in underestimating your opponent. I've got a trump card, and it's wearing a suit and an earpiece. For now, I let her rant, my paintbrush dripping blue defiance. Sunnyvale's about to get a masterclass in karma, and I've got the best seat in the house. Things escalate as Karen calls for backup, and I'm starting to think my quiet retirement in Sunnyvale Estates is about to make the evening news. I'm Jack Thompson, former President of the United States, standing in my yard with a paintbrush dripping presidential sapphire, facing off against Karen Wilson, Shaw President and suburban tyrant. My fence is the crime of the century, and Karen's treating it like I've declared war on her perfectly manicured utopia. She's on speakerphone now, her voice booming across the neighborhood like a foghorn. Yes, Vice President Simmons, we have a flagrant violation at 142 Maple Drive, she declares, clutching her bylaws like a holy relic. Rule 7.2 is clear, unapproved exterior modifications are prohibited. I'm half expecting her to start chanting Latin, given the zeal in her eyes. The neighbors who've turned this into a block party spectacle are eating it up. Some chuckle, others shake their heads, and a few are filming on their phones. Great, I'm one viral video away from being paintbrush prez. Karen spins toward me, her phone still blaring with the HOA vice president's voice, and jabs a finger in my direction. If you don't comply, Mr. Thompson, we'll have you removed from the property. Removed from my own yard. I face down hostile dictators with less audacity. The crowd gasps, a mix of shock and amusement. Tom, my neighbor and unofficial cheerleader, leans in with his beer, grinning like a kid at a circus. She's lost it, Jack, he whispers, completely unhinged. I'm calm, mostly because I know something Karen doesn't. Down the street, parked under a shady oak, is a black SUV with my Secret Service detail, Agents Carter and Hayes, ready to step in if this suburban soap opera gets too wild. I told them to keep a low profile when I moved here. No need to spook Sunnyvale with men in suits and earpieces. But Karen's pushing it, and I'm starting to think a little federal flair might be just the ticket. Let's be real, HOAs can't legally evict you from your own property. As Associa points out, they can slap you with fines or drag you to court, but removed. Karen's bluffing harder than a rookie in a high-stakes poker game. Still, her confidence is almost admirable, like a chihuahua barking at a tank. I'm holding my paintbrush like it's a debate podium, trying not to laugh as she paces my lawn, acting like she's starring in a courtroom drama. She even pauses dramatically after quoting Rule 7.2, as if expecting applause. I think to myself, if only she knew who she's messing with. The neighbors are loving it. A guy in a lawn chair across the street has popcorn, actual popcorn, like he knew this was coming. A kid on a skateboard circles closer, filming for what I'm sure will be a TikTok masterpiece. Tom raises his beer in a mock salute. You gonna let her talk to you like that, Jack? He teases. I smirk. Tom, I've handled worse. She's no Kim Jong-un. He snorts, nearly spilling his drink. Bet she'd try to fine him for his hair. Karen's oblivious to the peanut gallery, too busy dictating my fate to Vice President Simmons. Has defaced his fence with an unapproved color. She cries as if I've spray-painted graffiti instead of applied a tasteful blue. Simmons, who sounds like he'd rather be golfing, mumbles something about a board meeting. Karen, undeterred, hangs up and turns to me, her eyes gleaming with triumph. The board will handle this, Mr. Thompson. You're done, don't. Lady, I've stared down congressional hearings and international crises. A homeowners association isn't going to break me. But I'll admit, her sheer gall is impressive. She's strutting around my yard like she owns it, her loafers leaving little divots in my grass. I'm tempted to tell her I've got a Medal of Freedom in my study, but that'd ruin the surprise. Revenge, as I learned in politics, is all about timing. And my timing's about to be impeccable. The crowd's buzzing now, sensing the tension. A woman in yoga pants whispers to her husband. Is she really trying to kick him out? Her husband shrugs, munching on a granola bar. It's Karen. She once fined us for a gnome that was too whimsical. Too whimsical. I'm starting to think Sunnyvale's HOA is a secret cult, and Karen's the high priestess of blandness. I glance at the SUV again. Carter and Hayes are probably listening to this through their comms, chuckling at the absurdity. I can almost hear Hayes saying, "Sir, you want us to handle the lady with the clipboard." I've kept them on standby, but Karen's escalating faster than a Twitter feud. She's back on her phone, texting furiously, probably rallying the entire HOA board for an emergency inquisition. I'm half expecting her to call in a SWAT team or worse, a lawyer. Humor's keeping me sane. Karen's so intense she nearly trips over my garden hose again, flailing like she's auditioning for a slapstick comedy. She recovers, of course, and keeps lecturing me on community harmony. Harmony. The only thing disrupting harmony is her megaphone-level voice. I mutter to Tom, I've seen more harmony in a G7 summit. He laughs, raising his beer. To Karen, the harmony killer, I clink my paint can against it, grinning. The standoff's reaching fever pitch. Karen's pacing, the neighbors are gawking, and I'm standing there, paintbrush in hand, looking like a retired cowboy in a suburban showdown. I'm calm, but inside I'm savoring the moment. Karen thinks she's got me cornered, but she's about to learn what happens when you poke a bear with a Secret Service detail. My fence is blue, my patience is thin, and my trump card's waiting in that SUV. For now, I let her rant, her voice echoing like a bad campaign speech. The neighbors are on my side, judging by their smirks and whispers. Tom leans in again. Jack, you're a legend for keeping cool. I'd have dumped paint on her by now. I chuckle. Tempting, but I've got a better plan. He raises an eyebrow, but I just smile. Sunnyvale's about to get a lesson in underestimating Jack Thompson, and I can't wait to see Karen's face when the curtain drops. And then, the cavalry arrives. I'm Jack Thompson, former President of the United States, standing in my Sunnyvale estate's yard, paintbrush in hand, locked in a suburban showdown over my presidential sapphire fence. Karen Wilson, HOA President and self-anointed Queen of Conformity, is mid-rant, triumphantly dialing the HOA board to seal my fate. She's pacing my lawn, quoting Rule 7.2 like it's the Magna Carta, oblivious to the storm about to hit. The neighbors, now a full-blown audience with popcorn and lawn chairs, are watching this OA Armageddon unfold. Little does Karen know, her reign of terror is about to crash harder than a bad campaign ad. Karen's on her phone, her voice a siren of suburban fury. The board will have this handled by tonight. She crows, glaring at me like I've defaced the Statue of Liberty instead of painted a fence. I'm calm, paint splattered overalls and all, because I've got an ace up my sleeve. Down the street, a black SUV sits quietly, housing my Secret Service detail. Agents Carter and Hayes, who are probably betting on how long I'll let this circus run. I've kept them discreet, but Karen's crossed the line from annoying to actionable. Just as she's about to launch into another bylaw sermon, the SUV's doors swing open. The crowd hushes, sensing a plot twist. Two men in crisp black suits step out, their earpieces glinting in the sun. Carter, a 6-foot wall of stoic muscle, leads the way with Hayes, lean and sharp-eyed, right behind. Their polished shoes click on the pavement, and the air shifts like we've jumped from a sitcom to a spy thriller. Karen's still yammering, oblivious until Carter's shadow falls over her. She freezes mid-sentence, phone dangling like a forgotten prop. "Mom," Carter says, his voice low but firm, like he's addressing a rogue diplomat. "This is a federal protectee's residence. You're disrupting his safety. Step back." The words hit like a missile. Karen's smugness evaporates, her jaw dropping so fast I'm surprised it doesn't dent my lawn. "Federal protectee," she stammers, her eyes darting between Carter's earpiece and my paintbrush. The neighbors gasp, then erupt in whispers. Tom, my beer-swigging hype man, raises his can with a grin wider than the Grand Canyon. "Oh, this is good," he mutters. I step forward, paintbrush still dripping, and flash a grin. "Karen, I'm Jack Thompson, former president. This is my yard." The crowd loses it. Cheers, laughter, and a few whooks ripple through Sunnyvale. Karen's face is a masterpiece of shock and horror, like she just watched her HOA fines vanish in a puff of smoke. Her bylaws slip from her hand, fluttering to the grass like a defeated flag. I half expect her to faint, but she just stands there, mouth agape, looking like a fish who's been told the ocean's been privatized. The humor's too perfect. I've faced down hostile senators and rogue generals, but nothing compares to the look on Karen's face right now. It's the kind of revenge that doesn't need a speech, just a well-timed reveal and a crowd to savor it. Tom's practically cackling, shouting, "Best plot twist ever," to no one in particular. The kid on the skateboard is still filming, probably live streaming Choa Karen visits Secret Service, to 1 million viewers. I'm viral by sundown, guaranteed. Let's ground this in reality. Former presidents do get lifetime Secret Service protection, as the Secret Service itself confirms. Carter and Hayes are just doing their job, but to Karen, they're the apocalypse in sunglasses. She's muttering now, trying to salvage her dignity. I didn't know, she squeaks, her earlier bravado reduced to a whimper. I wave my paintbrush like a scepter. No harm done, Karen. Just maybe check who you're yelling at next time. The crowd roars again, and I'm pretty sure I hear someone yell, "Paint the town blue!" Carter and Hayes stand like statues, their faces unreadable but their presence screaming authority. Karen takes a shaky step back, her loafers scuffing my grass. She's still clutching her phone, but it's clear she's not calling anyone now. The HO aboard. They're probably hiding under their desks, praying this doesn't end up on CNN. I catch Hayes' eye, and he gives the slightest nod like he's saying, "Nice one, sir." I'm tempted to high-five him, but I keep it presidential. The neighbors are in full celebration mode. The guy with the popcorn offers me a handful, like we're at a victory parade. The woman in yoga pants is snapping selfies with the SUV in the background, probably captioning it, "Fake, oh a down." Even the kid on the skateboard rolls up, grinning. "Dude, you're a legend," he says. I chuckle. Just a guy with a fence, kid. But inside, I'm savoring every second of Karen's meltdown. Karen's trying to rally, stammering about misunderstandings and community standards. I'm half tempted to tell her I've got a Nobel Peace Prize nomination somewhere in my attic, but I let her squirm. Revenge doesn't need overkill. Just a black SUV and a crowd cheering your name. Tom claps me on the shoulder. "Jack, you just made Sunnyvale history." I grin. "Tom, I've made history before. This one's just funnier." The pace is electric, the climax hitting like a perfectly timed punchline. Karen's reign is over, at least for today. The neighbors are buzzing, the Secret Service is looming, and my fence is still gloriously blue. I glance at Carter, who's scanning the crowd like he's expecting a rogue HOA enforcer to leap from the bushes. "All clear, sir?" he asks. I nod. "Clear as my conscience, Carter." He almost cracks a smile. Almost. Sunnyvale's never seen a showdown like this, and I'm betting they won't forget it. Karen's still standing there, a deflated balloon in a power blazer, as the reality sinks in. She picked a fight with the wrong retiree, and now she's got a front row seat to her own humiliation. My paintbrush drips one last drop, a blue exclamation point on the day's victory. The stage is set for the aftermath, and I'm ready to paint this town, figuratively and literally, justice served with a side of humility. That's the flavor of the day in Sunnyvale Estates. I'm Jack Thompson, former President of the United States, standing victorious in my yard, paintbrush still dripping, presidential sapphire. After Karen Wilson, show president and suburban despot, got her comeuppance. Her attempt to evict me from my own property just crashed and burned when my Secret Service detail, Agents Carter and Hayes, stepped out of their SUV, revealing my past as the guy who used to run the free world. Now, with the neighbors cheering and Karen's ego in tatters, it's time to wrap this suburban saga with a bow. Karen's a ghost of her former self, her bylaws forgotten on my lawn like a surrendered battle flag. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry, Mr. President." She stammers, her voice barely above a whisper. Her earlier bravado has vanished faster than a campaign promise, and her loafers seem glued to my grass. I wave it off, chuckling, paintbrush dangling like a victory cigar. "No harm done, Karen. Let's just talk next time." Yeah, the crowd, now a full-blown Sunnyvale block party, roars with laughter. Tom, my beer-wielding wingman, raises his can. To talking, he shouts, and the neighbors toast like we've just signed a peace treaty. The scene's buzzing with energy. The guy with the popcorn is passing it around like we're at a premiere. The woman in yoga pants is snapping selfies with my fence, probably hashtagging 5BlueFenceRebellion. Even the skateboard kid's still filming, muttering, "This is gonna get 1,000,000 likes." I'm viral by dinner, no question. But the best part, Karen's face, a mix of shock and defeat, like she just found out her HOA fines are non-refundable. I've faced down hostile diplomats, but nothing beats the sweet, satirical sting of this moment. Sunnyvale's never seen a takedown like this, and the neighbors are eating it up. A guy in a Hawaiian shirt yells, "Paint the whole street blue, Jack." I grin, tempted to take him up on it. The HOA board, probably cowering after Karen's speakerphone meltdown, sends an email within the hour. "Dear Mr. Thompson, your fence color is approved in the interest of community harmony." Community harmony. That's rich, considering Karen nearly started a riot over a 12 can of paint. I forward the email to Tom, who texts back, "Frame it." I finish painting, the fence gleaming like a monument to suburban defiance. Tom wanders over with a fresh beer, offering it like a medal. "You're a legend, Jack," he says, shaking his head. Karen's probably rewriting the bylaws to include, "Don't mess with former presidents." I laugh, clinking my paint can against his can. If she does, I want a copy. We sit on my porch, watching the neighborhood settle. The kid on the skateboard does a trick in my driveway, shouting, "For the prez." I toss him a thumbs up, feeling like I've just won an election. Here's a twist nobody saw coming the next morning. A muffin basket shows up at my door, wrapped in cellophane with a card from Karen. "My apologies, Mr. President. Let's start fresh. Karen W. Muffins." From the woman who tried to exile me over a paint color. I'm half convinced they're laced with regret, but I share them with Carter and Hayes, who've parked their SUV in my driveway for the day. Carter, the stoic one, takes a bite and nods. "Not bad," he says, like he's critiquing a state dinner. Hayes, the Joker, grins. "Better than her bylaws." I laugh, realizing my Secret Service guys are the real MVPs. The muffin gesture is peak suburbia. Petty drama resolved with baked goods. It's relatable, like something out of a Bob Vila article on HOA disputes, where boards often back down under pressure and neighbors make awkward peace. Karen's basket is her white flag, and I'm happy to accept it. After all, I've brokered deals with worse opponents. Plus, the muffins are blueberry, which feels like a nod to my fence. Intentional. Probably not, but I'm taking the win. The neighbors keep the buzz going. A few stop by to shake my hand, some asking for selfies with the fence. "You're the talk of Sunnyvale," a woman in a sun hat says, her dog yapping at Carter. "Karen's been quiet all day." Quiet. That's a miracle. I tell them to swing by any time, joking that I'll introduce them to the best security team around. Carter raises an eyebrow but says nothing. Hayes whispers, "You're killing our low profile." I shrug. Blame Karen. Reflecting on it, this whole mess is a reminder that retirement's never dull. I traded the Oval Office for a paintbrush, but trouble still finds me. Only now it's wearing a blazer and waving bylaws. The revenge was sweet, not because I crushed Karen, but because I didn't have to. The reveal did the work, and the neighborhood's laughter was the cherry on top. I've always believed timing is everything, and dropping the former president card at peak Karen meltdown was better than any State of the Union. So here's my call to action. Dealt with an entitled neighbor or OA. Share your story below. I know you've got a wild one. Who's had the craziest encounter? If you're ever in Sunnyvale, stop by. I'll show you the fence and maybe split a muffin. For now, I'm back to painting, sipping Tom's beer, and savoring the quiet. Until the next Karen comes knocking. The pace slows, but the triumph lingers. Sunnyvale's got a new legend, and it's not Rule 7.2. My fence stands proud, a blue beacon of victory. Karen's probably at home, rethinking her life choices while I'm out here, living mine. Retirement's full of surprises, but if this is the worst of it, I'm ready for round 2. Just don't tell Carter and Hayes. They're still eating the muffins.